Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Game Over Toronto. Lauren, Zach, and unfortunately, we have the first loss in the second round here for the Leafs, but it came in Game 3, which is not a bad way to start. So, like I said, welcome to Game Over. Before we get going, if you could just hit like right down here and subscribe right down here, it would make this stream go a lot better. We're going to be monitoring the chat, of course, all night, taking your questions, comments, and queries, as always, and we're going to break all of that down. We're going to break down the game. We're going to break down what went wrong and what went right and all of that here on Game Over Toronto. So, Zach, as I logged in to our little chat here, you said you are not bothered. You are unmoved, one could even say, by the current loss by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So for the people that are praying for the Leafs' downfall and sort of awaiting that doom, what do you say to those people?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's anything I can say to those people, but like, if you're preying on the Leafs' downfall, you're like, nothing I say is going to change the fact that you're preying on that. But I mean, I said I'm not moved by this result. At the end of the day, the Florida Panthers are a very good hockey team. They're the defending Stanley Cup champions for a reason. We knew there was going to be a pushback, and overall, I was pretty content with how the game went from a Leafs perspective. Obviously, you hate the final result. You hate that it had to be Marchand because, of course. But in terms of how the Leafs played, did they play their best game? No, of course not. There are definitely things to clean up going forward. But when you consider that this is the Panthers at their most desperate, I'm pretty okay with this. And you're still up 2-1 in the series.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, at no point, sure, we had we joke around about, oh, wouldn't it be nice to sweep the Panthers? There was no universe that was ever going to happen in. They're too good. There's a reason that they won the Stanley Cup last year, and there's a reason that they went to the final the year before that, right? Like, it's not a coincidence. And I the more time goes on, obviously it would have been nice to get a win tonight. But again, as long as you go into Sunday's game and you play better than you did today, and you correct some of those mistakes that, sunk you in this game, then they go back to Toronto up 3-1 in the series. So, I think you take today and you watch the video tomorrow and you break down what went wrong and then you try to fix it for the next day.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Oh, obviously an oversimplification, but
yeah, well, and obviously there was some other factors in this game that we'll have to talk about that you can't really correct necessarily.
Sure.
But end of the day, the goal was to go into Sunrise and split these games in Florida. You drop game 3, come out and answer in game 4.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like how the Leafs came out in game 1 and were very good, and then they came out even better in game 2. They need to get back to what made them good in those 2 games, because there was some good things that happened tonight, right? We do score 4 goals.
Jump right into the game recap if you want. How about how fast the Leafs came out in this one?
Yeah. Well, number 23 scoring 23 seconds in for the Leafs, getting them on the board. Essentially, Marner hits the bar, and then the deflection gets buried by Matthew Nyes. Just an unbelievable play, just an unbelievable read.
Well,
the puck drop, it was wicked.
So it starts with Auston Matthews taking it to the net, Nyes getting a chance in front, and then the shot from Marner from the point, it was the Matthews deflection off the crossbar. I'm kind of sad that it wasn't a Matthews goal, but it is what it is. That would have quieted a lot of the fan base down that has been saying he sucks now. So, but like 23 seconds in, we thought the Nylander goal 33 seconds into game 1 was fast, and we've managed to one-up it. Like
by a full 10 seconds too. Like by no small
unbelievable.
By no small measure, right? So, after game 2, we were all sort of hoping they would come out with their hair on fire, and they did. And then not only do they go up first, but they doubled down 5 minutes and 57 seconds in, and just an unbelievable play from John Tavares. Like, and getting all of us like so jazzed in the first 10 minutes of the third in the third game. Like, just I literally screamed as loud on my couch today when 5 minutes and 57 seconds in when Connor McDavid scored the goal for Back in Four Nations. Like, it was so good because that's the kind of momentum that the Leafs need to succeed, and the beginning of the game, it sort of felt like we were all hitched to the same wagon.
Well, and, for longtime hockey fans, you might recall that John Tavares goal looked eerily similar to a goal he scored against the Florida Panthers in Game 6. What year would it have been? When he was with the Islanders to break the Islanders playoff curse, where he just gets that wraparound. He's like down on a knee, and he's basically like the puck he's like got his stick blade sideways, and he's just hooking it back into the net. I had to do a double take because at first I was like, did that go in? Did that hit post? Did Bob save it? But no, goes in 2-0. Like, talk about silencing the opposing crowd early on. Like, that was about as picture perfect of a start. The shots were like 5-1 early on, and you're up 2-0. Like, we knew that the Panthers were going to push, but the Leafs did a fantastic job early on to make sure that that push was delayed. Now we'll talk about how that didn't end up helping, but very impressive first 10 minutes from the Leafs.
Yeah, and it made Florida have to play with a little bit of desperation to start out too, which unfortunately they were able to rise to the occasion tonight. But I think that you have to come out on Sunday's game with that same amount of push and try to get control and just do a better job of holding on to it.
Yeah, like, I mean, you have to come out. You have to improve your effort every single game somehow. Like, it's impossible to do, but you somehow have to keep digging deeper and finding more within yourself. Game 4, I would expect it to start slow, just the nature of a long overtime game in Game 3, a very high octane affair. Both teams are going to want to clamp down defensively a little bit, but I like that Game 4, you got to just keep finding another gear.
Yep, absolutely. And there was certainly no shortage of opportunities even early in the game. There was a really nice opportunity by Matthew Nyes and Auston Matthews just after the JT wraparound goal. And then, of course, within a couple minutes of Toronto going up 2-0, who else but the captain of the Florida Panthers, as he has scored in every single game so far of the series, he essentially catches Morgan Riley not really doing much. And there's a really bad turnover. Rodriguez passes it to Reinhardt, who passes it to Barkov, who sort of just walks in and takes what he wants and gets the Florida Panthers back within one.
Well, I mean, hold on. Like, first of all, Morgan Riley, this is the second game in a row he's tried to dump it into his own zone, and it's gone poorly both times. Hits the ref this time. But this became a theme of the night, is just weird bounces around the net. Barkov is not shooting this puck. He's not trying to shoot this puck. He's trying to center it, and it hits Morgan Riley's stick and deflects it. Like, the most accidental goal the Panthers could have scored there. And it was a killer because the Leafs had started so good, and then you get that bounce go against you, and you could just feel some of the life get sucked out of the bench. And the Panthers, man, that really went to their legs for the rest of the period.
Yeah, and then even though the fact that the Leafs get a power play right after that, it essentially gets killed off. They aren't able to establish anything. Brandon Carlo takes a cross-checking penalty with 7:44 to go. That gets killed off, which was good. Obviously, the Leafs PK has been struggling a little bit. It was nice to not let Florida score on the first power play of the night. That was nice for a change. But they get a couple posts. It gets close, and then the shots are 11-7 for Toronto. They're still very much in control. And then Domi takes another penalty with 2:47 to go, but it ends up only going for 14 seconds before Marner gets taken down.
Oh man, it was like Marner on that breakaway. Shoot it, man. Just takes too long to make a move, and almost could have been 2 penalties on that because Marner got hauled down on a breakaway, but I digress.
There was a number of penalties tonight that definitely could have been called that weren't in it. It essentially was like, even though I think the Leafs ended up having more power plays in the entire game. Oh no. Yeah, they ended up having one more. There was a number of penalties that definitely could have been called. Later on, we'll get to the part where, the Florida Panthers knocked their own net off and nothing was done about it. But that's later in the game. But again, going into the first intermission, Leafs are up 2-1. Shots are in favor of Toronto 12-9, and we were all feeling good. Like, it was obviously the weird bounce happens, but you assume that you'll maybe only get one of those going against you a game. And unfortunately, as the game went on...
Bold assumption, apparently.
Yeah, it was the wrong assumption, right? And then, so, obviously, starting the second period, Wall was playing really well, finally. Not finally. He was good in the first period, but he just had... He played better tonight, but he still seemed like there was a number of moments where he was getting, like, way way over pushed and just way too much space on the other side of the net.
Weird game for Wool. Overall, he was generally good, but there were just individual moments that were very anxiety riddled, and then one horrifying one that we'll get to later. But the biggest thing for Wool, he needs to be chained to his crease. I never want to see him play the puck again. I would rather watch Mike Smith, Jacob Markstrom, like these guys that give all hockey fans anxiety when they play the puck. Joseph Wool cannot play the puck. He's just horrifying at it. He almost gave up a goal at the start of the third as well, just because he misplayed it and it went right to Lundell. Thankfully, he recovers and got a stick on it. But man,
he's the inside.
Yeah, every time he leaves the blue paint, it's a carnival.
Yeah, just stick a bungee cord to the back of his jersey. And then, of course, the Leafs go up after a Greer penalty. John Tavares getting a second of the game, his second of the night, sorry. William Nylander with a really, 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 really nice play over to Marner, who gets JT to tip it off of a Panthers glove from Gustav Forsling 17 seconds into the power play. And again, for the Leafs power play, which has been struggling, it was nice to see them capitalize. And then, of course, this is where everything starts to go off. So the Leafs go up 3-1, and everything changes with the Sam Reinhart goal that ends up trickling in, despite the fact that Brandon Carlo made the initial save with, in fairness, a broken stick. They essentially do the equivalent of a tush push and just sort of shove everything into the zone.
We were, at this point, like, 25 minutes into the game, and between the two teams, we now had 3 own goals.
Yeah, and the initial save is made, but the NHL tush push happens, and it ends up going in over the line. So that's a Reinhart goal from Ekblad and Rodriguez again. Leafs legend Evan Rodriguez, worst. And then right after that, a minute and 3 later, Carter Verhaeghe on a really nice 2-on-1 from Bennett. He essentially just wastes out OEL and Wool. Wool doesn't even get a push off his left leg before it's in the
So the most 2-on-1s, what you'll see is that the goalie is trained to take the shooter. You want to take the pass away so that the goalie can play straight up. Both Benoit and OEL dive on this play and miss, so Bennett can shoot it if he wants, and Wool's preparing for that possibility. And then both defenders do a horrible job taking away the pass as well. Like, it's a very late pass from Bennett as well. Like, he gets to the goal line,
he does a very good job.
Like, Wool has to lean as far to the left as he possibly can to hug the post, and then Verhaeghe, great patience by him, a good pass by Bennett, as much as I hate saying that. Like, the first 3 goals of the game, you cannot put on Wool. Own goal, and whatever that defense was on a 2-on-1.5 with Benoit back checking there. Just horrible defense.
Yeah, and Carter Verhaeghe is not going to miss with 3/4 of a wide open net.
No.
Right? Like, never. It's just... Yeah, and then
and you know what? He had a chance in game 2 at the end of the game when the Leafs were holding a lead in the slot and he missed the net. He was not going to miss another prime chance.
Yeah. Yep. And then so that ties the game. We're essentially back at zeros. After that, the Leafs definitely for the rest of the second period looked quite tentative. That's the word that I would use.
Yeah, it definitely was.
Just choking the stick a little too much, man, and just giving a little too much space. They weren't forechecking the way they have been.
Sticks.
Yeah.
It definitely looked like, because Berube called timeout after the Verhaeghe goal, and it looked like the Leafs, like, I'm assuming after that timeout, the Leafs kind of were like, okay, we got to tighten up defensively. We got to be better defensively. And they almost overcompensated for that by forgetting that they have to get to the other side of the rink too. So the rest of the period was just not good, but is what it is.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Leafs get a penalty or a power play right after that, the Kulikov holding penalty. It essentially just gets cleared a bunch of times. They aren't able to establish anything at all. And then, of course, Nosek goes in, enters the zone, and just beats Wall. This is the goal first of all, this is the first goal that he really should have had. He got it twice. He got it with his blocker and with his side, and just isn't able to make the squeeze.
So game 1, he comes in, he gets beat clean from for him, the right circle from distance over his glove. Game 2, Barkov on the power play early, beats him clean from the circle over his glove. And now he's getting beat clean from the top of the circle through, like, unacceptable goal.
Yeah.
Unacceptable goal. Like, again, Joseph Woll, I don't really put the first 3 goals on him. That one can never go in. There is no universe that can go in. And so the Leafs are in a situation now where you had 2 own goals, a brutal defensive rep, and then a brutal shot that never can go in on an NHL goalie.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not difficult to see Wool sort of deflate a little bit after that one. Like, he kind of
Definitely
sank to
took
the
him
ice.
a second to get, like he had to get back into it a little bit. He knew he messed up.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of the it's like dodgeball. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. And if you can hit a little bit of it, you should be able to block all of it. And he got it with the side of his blocker. He just hit it into himself and then into the twine.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see in Game 4 because, like I said, that's 3 games now that he's given up one that you really need him to save. Again, we haven't seen playoff Wool take over a game yet.
Yeah.
I know that the Panthers are doing some good things to limit his effectiveness, but I think knows that in his heart of hearts he needs to step up and have a better game. So I would expect I expect a tighter checking game on Sunday, but I also expect Wool to step up as well.
Yeah. And then, we essentially, the rest of the second period, the Leafs, for the last several minutes, were just in a shooting gallery. Just felt like wave after wave of Panther cycling. They were able to establish multiple instances of established zone time where they're getting 30, 40 seconds. Schmidt hits a post, and it's lucky it doesn't go in. And then, of course, there's the controversial non-call at the end of the second period with 1:19 to go, where Lorentz essentially ends up burying it where the net would have been had it not been knocked off by Stefan Nosek. He knocks off the net. The puck goes where the net should have been. It should have been a power play. Wasn't called.
So I do want to say, Bobrovsky actually, I want to credit Bob because on this play, even though the net is gone, he still makes an effort to put his glove where the post was to make sure that it didn't go between the pegs. So it just good play from Bob there. And hold on, I gotta just chat. Luke, it wasn't a disaster, but it's a long way from good. I referenced disaster just on that one rep. I'm not saying that the defense in this game was a disaster. It wasn't good, but the 2-on-1 with Bennett was horrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, so we go into the second intermission down, 4-3, but the shots are still close. We're only behind in 2 shots. And again, historically, the Leafs, this is still a very winnable game, right? To open up the third period, like you said, Lindell almost buries him on a mistake from Woll. He hits the opposite side of the twine that he's supposed to, thank goodness. And then, of course, Chris Tanev goes to the room after a hit by Gadjevich with 16:28 to go. We all collectively...
Yep. And there was the stat on the broadcast, and Sportsnet stats tweeted this out. Tanev, after this game, it's probably over 70 hits that he's absorbed these playoffs. Teams are very clearly identifying him as the strongest defender that the Leafs have. And they, it's the Paul Maurice game plan. Hit them as often as you can so that by game 7, they have nothing left. Tanev has been taking so much punishment in these playoffs. So that... so glad he came back because when he left, that was, like you said, that was the moment where we all collectively held our breath.
Yeah, it felt very similar to... I know we keep talking about him and he hasn't played in a Leafs jersey in several years now, but it felt the same as when Jake Muzzin got hurt and he left the game and we were all like, oh God, what are we going to do? Because again, even if any other defenseman on the Leafs goes out, Philip Myers is waiting in the wings and will fit in. Unless it's Chris Tanev, there's nobody that can just step into that.
No. So the good news is you've had all 3 pairs have been doing relatively good these playoffs. You've been rolling all 3 pairs comfortably. So if one guy goes out, other guys step up and you can just shelter the 6th guy a little bit. So Philip Myers or, hey, bionic knee Yanni Hakanpää, you want to do something for me? But we're not in that territory yet, thankfully. Yeah,
let's hopefully we don't have to see him. And then again, there's a number of opportunities that happen. There's a McMahon with JT chance. There's a really good chance by William Nylander. we're still down by 1 with 10 to go. And then with 9:04 to go, Morgan Rielly gets one back after accidentally putting it in after, a Florida goal going off of his own hands earlier in the game. Knies gets a really good chance over to Poppy, over to Mo, who gets it off of
Whoa,
Jones.
hold on. We gotta spend a quick second on the goal. That ties
That's what
the...
I'm talking about. I'm giving you who was giving the assist.
Sorry.
Relax, man. Relax. Knies gets the puck. He passes it to Auston Matthews, who passes it to Morgan Rielly, who shoots sort of in the general area of the net, and it goes off
Puck's
of
on
Bob.
net?
Yeah, puck's on net, off of Bob, off of Jones's knee, and into the back of the Florida net, and the game is tied, just like that.
Seth Jones is having a tough series, man. He is having a tough... there was he's gotten beat off the rush. There was that one that you briefly touched on earlier, where after the Leafs go up 2-0, Matthews and Knies just come in 2-on-2 against Jones and Nicola, and Matthews just skates right by Jones, and Knies hits him for a deflection. Dude, Seth Jones off the rush is shocking, and he's the own goal kind of just compounds the issue. But we need a counter on the stream here. That's 4 own goals in this game. Yeah,
and again, I'm sure Morgan Rielly felt quite good. I mean, that's his 4th of the playoffs. He's been better in the playoffs than he's been in the entire regular season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's really stepped up and done a good thing. And despite the fact that what ends up happening is the overtime goal ends up going off of Morgan Rielly for the second time in a game, how often is that going to happen? Even once a game, let alone twice in the same game to the same player. That's I'm sure Bet365 would have something to say about the chances of that happening. But before we even get to overtime, Domi gets a really nice opportunity with Morgan Rielly. It goes off the post. He gets this close to burying it. The third line had a couple really good shifts to the end to end the game. Bob had some big saves, and then somebody that has done so well for the Leafs in this series takes a penalty with 1 minute and 47 seconds to go. Max Pacioretty with the trip on Jones, who ends up having a redemption moment. And Poppy manages to tip it out with 15 seconds to go and forces overtime.
Reinhart did have the best chance on that power play.
Yep.
Wool, he gets the stop, but it squeaks up through him and off the crossbar. Very anxious final 2 minutes of regulation.
Yeah. OKO did a digital. I thought the Leafs did very well to stay in the game after they tied it, but they were very clearly being worn down by all the hits. Well, that's not going to get better. But
deal with it then.
Yeah, you're in the wrong sport if you don't want to get hit. Go play.
Playoffs are a grind, man.
Yeah, and then 13 seconds of PK time for Toronto to start overtime. Wool makes a couple really good saves on Lundell. Overtime tonight was definitely Wool's best period of hockey that he's played so far in the playoffs. It was essentially the first 8 minutes was essentially just going end to end with chances. There was a number of breakaways that happened. William Nylander came close 5 minutes in. There was so many chances for the Cats, so many chances for the Leafs. McCabe came really close.
Nylander, man.
Yep, Matthew Knies too.
Best play.
Yep, and then Willie gets another breakaway. He isn't able to bury it. Wool makes a stop with 10:28 to go. And then Auston Matthews gets stopped right in the crease, and everybody was standing. There was Leaf fans standing, there was Cats fans standing. Knies gets a really good breakaway opportunity, isn't able to bury. Florida was getting cycle after cycle after cycle. And finally, the dagger comes off of the stick of who else but Brad Marchand. Essentially, they create a turnover. They throw the puck in the general direction of the net, and it goes off of a Leaf into their own net.
It was 50 seconds of zone time for the Panthers there.
Yeah.
They just completely hemmed in the Tavares, Nylander, Holmberg line because they switched Pacioretty. They had McMahon up there for a bit. McMahon played himself out of that role, so Holmberg was there. But they just got completely hemmed by the Lundell line. That third line of the Panthers continues to be a massive problem for the Leafs.
Haven't been able to stop them.
Look, as Luke says, Rielly gets a Hattie. If we're having the counter, that is 5 own goals in this game.
Yeah. That's a monkey paw, right? That's the monkey paw wish. I want Morgan Rielly to have a hat trick, and then the monkey paw closes.
That was Yeah, it's like have you seen those videos where it's like a genie can grant wishes, but the wish you request is to see the conditions on it. So it's like, how are you going to screw me out of what I actually want here? That's what the Leafs apparently needed, because that is just another brutal bounce. Hard to blame anyone on. Like, who do you blame? Like,
Hmm.
maybe Holmberg for not blocking the shot, maybe Carlo for not blocking the shot, but at the end of the day, it hits Riley, it flutters through the air and over Wool's head. Like,
Yeah,
it earned by the Panthers with how much zone time they had on that
sure.
shift, but brutal.
Yeah. Like, I think William Nylander at that point had already been out for like over a minute and 45. There was a number of Leafs that had been out for a long time. They were just out of gas.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's like that, early 2000s movie Bedazzled with Brendan Fraser and Elizabeth Hurley, where he gets all these wishes and every single one of them is blurst. Like, he asks for what he thinks is a good thing, and then it's like, it's just a nightmare, right? So it doesn't feel like many games like that happen in the playoffs. It doesn't. Those sorts of games don't usually happen a couple times in a row. Aside from a couple bad bounces, the Leafs did play a very good game. Obviously, they let their foot off the gas for, essentially 2 minutes or a minute and a half, and it's enough for the Florida Panthers to score 2 goals, and they managed to scrape it up and get to overtime, but Brad Marchand continues to be a nightmare machine for Leaf fans far and wide. So that's
Yep.
how the game ends, and the next game will be on Sunday, and that'll be great. Let's move over into the second period. Before we do that, if you could just hit like and subscribe. Like is right down here, subscribe is right here, and both of our social medias are down there as well. Obviously, the Oilers are still in the playoffs. The Winnipeg Jets are still in the playoffs. The Winnipeg Jets are playing tonight, and hopefully we meet another Canadian team in the Stanley Cup Finals, because wouldn't that be great? So go check out those streams after this one is done, and let's move over into the second period. So obviously the biggest thing tonight that went wrong was just a bunch of bounces not going the Leafs' way. That's probably the biggest thing.
So that's what we could take solace in, is that there were so many just weird, non-repeatable goals in this game. Like, you're not gonna be able to do much about Verhaeghe getting a shot from below the circles with no one on him. But what you can do something about is, okay, Barkov tries to center it and it goes off Riley and in. Well, that's not a very repeatable play. I don't think Barkov's going to try to do that anytime soon. I don't think that, like, shooting into traffic and it bounces in, sure, that'll happen once in a while, is what it is. But, like, even the Leafs goal, like Morgan Riley shooting it off Bobrovsky and it hitting Jones and bouncing back in, that's not a repeatable goal. You can't count on that every game. So that, I don't know. Like, as far as the goals against, I'm not concerned about how the goals went in. There are things to worry about in terms of, like, Florida pouring it on with the forecheck. There's going to be a lot of talk of the momentum of the series. Florida has life, and now maybe they'll come out with a little bit more fire in Game 4 now that they got that first win. But I mean, overall, the Leafs played like, they played well enough to win, and it didn't fall their way. I wouldn't go far as to say this was a good game, especially compared to what we've seen in this series from them so far.
Mm-hmm.
But it also isn't like they didn't come out and get smacked in Game 3, and it's like, oh no, like the Leafs really have a problem here, and they got to adjust a bunch. It's just like, no, like, it was another 1-goal game, and you lost. You're gonna lose sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, there's lots of things that we can do better and get back to the style of game that they played in Game 1 and 2. There were a lot of passes tonight that were successful the way they were in Game 1 and 2, but there was a bunch more that got picked off because Florida is making those reads, and that's assumed. Matthew Nyes before the game tonight said, we expect this to be the toughest game that we've played so far, and they were right. And if they do a couple more good things, and then maybe this game ends differently, and we're talking about a 3-0 lead. And like you said, those things are not repeatable. Luke Venables in the chat, only Sam Bennett fans don't click like. I agree. I actually said out loud, we don't have the puck luck when sorry, it's behind the heart. We don't have the puck luck when that first Riley own goal went in. Yeah, it's funny, eh? Some nights are just, there's not, you either have the puck luck or you don't. And just tonight, it's a flip of the coin, man.
Like, look, we talk about, there was 5 own goals in this game, 3 against you, 2 against them. Like, cool. Like, it is what it is. And you were still, again, it went to overtime. You were a shot away from being up 3-0 in the series. Like, I think if you had told any Leaf fan coming into this series that you're going into game 3 against Florida. You're going to be up 2-0 and it's going to go to overtime. Even if you lose that game, you're like, oh, so the Leafs are doing pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, all things considered, I still think that the Leafs have control in this series.
Yep.
I still
it's until you lose one at home. Like,
yeah. Yeah, and that's what the Leafs need to do now is, not focus on the fact that they didn't get the bounces tonight. Keep doing the things that made you successful in game 2. Get back to that. Maybe sit Joseph Woll down and be like, listen, man, some of these weren't your fault, but some of these you need to do better on. And that one goal tonight, I know that we don't need to, the coaching staff doesn't need to say a thing because I know that one is haunting him.
Exactly. I was gonna say that's the thing is like, well, we could sit here and be like, yeah, Joseph Woll needs to have that one, and you know who else is thinking that? Joseph Woll. Like, he knows. He knows he has to be better, and I'm confident enough in that young man that he will be.
Yeah, and at the end of the game, at the end of the stream the other day, we were talking about what are we least worried about, and my answer was goaltending. And I, in fairness, still believe that. I still think that goaltending is one of the Leafs' strengths. The difference, though, is that, you need Joseph Woll to be better.
So, like, to put it this way, was Woll good in this game? I wouldn't go that far. He was fine.
Yeah.
He was fine and had one brutal goal. He was not the reason they lost. And for a game that you gave up 5 goals in, to say the goalie wasn't the reason you lost, I think that's a pretty good spot to be in.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else did you like about, like, maybe we'll focus on the fact that the Leafs now in 3 games have more goals than they did in all of 2023 in those 5 games. What do you like about the Leafs' ability to generate offense at 5-on-5 so far in this series?
I like that it's not only having to come from the big guys. I really like the fact that our defense has stepped up and scored a goal in every single game in the playoffs so far for the Leafs. They have been relevant. Yeah. They have been a factor. That is something that they have struggled with for the entire regular season. It, in fairness, is something that the Leafs have struggled with for several years now, is not getting enough offense from their defense. And so for them to come in this year to be as stacked as they are defensively, but also being able to step up and actually produce some offense is a huge difference maker. Because not only are they getting the goals, but they're getting assists. They're jumping up in the play. Like, Jake McCabe is, like, every game it just feels like he gets better. And even though the one assist was taken away from him tonight, like, he is a game breaker for us. And that's probably the biggest thing for me is the fact that, yes, there's been lots of offense that hasn't come from the top line, from the person that we all sort of expect, because he wears a C on his chest and makes the most amount of money. He's still producing offense. No, he does not have as many goals as lots of us would hope. That is totally fair. I don't think if you were to go into this saying, the Leafs are going to get to game 9 of the playoffs and Auston Matthews is going to have 2 goals, that any of us would be thrilled about that number. But the fact of the matter is that it's coming from the whole company. And you can't win on just
if you had told people that Matthews would have 2 goals 9 games into the playoffs, everyone would be like, oh, so you barely won in game 7 and then you're down 0-2.
Yeah. Yep. But instead, they're still up 2-1 in the series. They have been in control of the series for the majority of it. They were in control in the first period tonight. They were in control for a good portion of the third period and a bunch of overtime. It's the difference is the second period. The Leafs, I think the Panthers were like 12-8 in terms of the amount of offense they produce against what they allow in the third period. And the Leafs have like doubled that number in 3 games.
Well, and the other thing is the Panthers have, since the start of the 2023 playoffs, they've never lost a game that they went into the third period with a lead. And again, that record remains unbeaten, but it was encouraging to see that the Leafs at least were able to force overtime, get some pushback, and they could have legitimately won it. It's not like I was concerned for the first 10 minutes of the third period. I was a little concerned because the Panthers were doing a great job of grinding out the clock. It was starting out. Yeah, like great forecheck, still getting offense. The shots were like 3-2. It was very reminiscent of how the Leafs were playing Ottawa when they had a lead in the third period.
100%.
And that's what you're going to get from the defending. Like, they are the best 5-on-5 defensive team in the league for a reason. So the fact that they've scored, what are we up to now? That's 13 goals in 3 games. Come on. Like, You got to be happy with that.
Yeah, like I said, we do end up losing the game in overtime, but it was by no means like an ass kicking. They kicked our ass
No.
for a few minutes in the third period. I will give them that. There was 10 minutes where the Panthers really came to life and really took control of the game, but the Leafs evened it up. They didn't just go quietly into the night. They didn't just fold, and they did not just let the clock run out with limp and non-knee bent offense.
Yeah. So, like, considering this is the Panthers at their most desperate, the fact that it was an overtime game and they were at their most desperate and they had to have that many things go right for them should give you confidence, especially considering the Leafs are still up in the series. Like,
Yeah.
do not forget that fact. The Leafs are still up a game in this series.
Yep, absolutely.
Take it. Everyone needs to take a breath.
Yeah. Go do some rhythmic breathing exercises. There's lots of them online. Just whoosah for the next 48 hours, essentially. And should we move? Do you want to use the third period to talk about the goaltending as a concern or no?
Because I'm not concerned. Like, I expect Wool to be better.
Fair.
And I think we've said all we need to say about Wool. I think there are other things to be concerned about, but is there anything else like positive from this game that you want to touch on before we do that?
I do like that they scored a power play goal tonight. I think that they really needed that. I liked a lot of the opportunities that the power play was able to establish. It still drives me nuts that they insist on doing this like 60% effort glide in over the other team's blue line. Yep. The drop back pass still exists, and that's awful. But if you score, it doesn't hurt so bad.
And you know what? Like, the power play opportunity they had after that, you could see Florida start to back off a little bit. And that's what you have to do against a hyper-aggressive power play. If you get one, okay, suddenly they're going to maybe be a little bit more cautious. If you get another, like if you come out in game 4 and you score a power play goal, then like they're going to stop being quite as aggressive when you're set up in the O-zone. And that'll give Marner the time and space. Also love that Marner is shooting. How many playoffs have we gone through where Mitch Marner refuses to shoot the puck? Like, I love his little wristers from the point on the power play because, so this is the difference between Morgan Rielly and Mitch Marner on the power play in terms of shooting. Morgan Rielly, he is a very good snapper from below the circles. You saw him, he beat Bobrovsky and hit the crossbar later in this game, could have won the thing for the Leafs.
Yep.
He has a legitimately good snapshot. But when he's at the point on the power play, it takes him a second to rip it, so you can tell it's coming. He too often will hit shin pads. Mm-hmm. It's too inaccurate. It's too high. It's hard to tip. Mitch Marner, he does such a good job at just these quick little wristers that are like knee height or lower, perfect for deflections. And at worst, if it's not deflected, it's hitting the net for a rebound chance so you can get traffic in front.
Yep.
And he's pretty good at getting it off quickly enough to where like the defense can't set up to block it. And also, no one's looking at Mitch Marner as a shooting threat, so they're not getting in the lanes anyways.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I love Morgan Rielly, and he has done so well in the playoffs. But when I see him standing at the blue line, like with his stick raised, I'm like, put your stick down, Morgan. Like, no one believes you.
Yeah, no, like Morgan Rielly in transition, off the rush, when he jumps up in the play, love him.
Yeah.
Holding the blue line, hit or miss. And then handling the forecheck is a whole can of worms that is bad, but that's not why he's here. He's here for the offensive part. So you just have to take the good with the bad for Rielly. And in the regular season, that was hard to do because there was a lot more bad than good. In the playoffs, when rush chances are at a premium, having Morgan Rielly's abilities to do that makes a world of difference. So you can afford to take the good with the bad here because you get more good than bad.
Yes. If someone was to come to me with a magic wand and say, do you want to trade Morgan Rielly for Evan Bouchard? I would not say yes. Because the downside of Evan Bouchard is significantly more than Morgan Rielly. Do I wish that Morgan Rielly was better at the blue line? Yes. But Evan Bouchard is like...
That is the extreme version because Evan Bouchard is like a top 3 offensive defenseman and like a bottom 3 defensive defenseman. So that is the extreme version. And Bouchard's also going to make like $5 million more in the offseason here. So don't worry about it. He does have a wicked shot, though. I'll give him that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I was to trade the shot style from Morgan Rielly to Evan Bouchard, like, don't get me wrong, I would love more bombs from the point, but occasionally Morgan Riley does play defense better than Evan Bouchard.
I mean, if you could just take Bouchard's shot and give it to Riley, Morgan Riley would be
Sure.
a 15 million.
Yes, but there is obviously always a downside. No player is perfect. Everything okay? Is there a ghost in your room?
Oh no, I'm watching the Stars Jets game.
Okay. What's the score?
I think it's 3-0 Jets still.
Oh damn. Okay. Well, Mark Scheifele would never. Okay, well let's move over into the third period. Make sure you hit like. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you follow both Zach and I on social media. Make sure you get your questions in because in the overtime period we are going to take it. Your questions. I mean, it was the best of times. It was the blurst of times. I couldn't have said it any better myself, Luke. Where did it go? Terry, you're here every show. After this loss, I'm now cheering for the Oilers. I know heartbreak is coming very soon, so I'm going to disown the Leafs from here on. So here, the Leafs are all yours. I'm out of here. Bye. Terry, you will be back. Stop lying to yourself.
Breath, man.
Yeah, man. This is not the end of days. Okay, we are not
You're
down
telling
3-0
me-
in the series.
You're telling me the Leafs have won the most playoff games in this era.
Yeah.
And they're up 2-1 on the defending Cup champions, and now you're out?
Yeah. Now you're
No.
jumping ship. No, you'll be back. Just like in Hamilton. Okay, so let's talk about the difference that the captains are making really quickly in the third period here for each of these teams. Because yes, Auston Matthews is not producing goals the way that we would love him to. He is still third on the team in terms of points in the playoffs, which is fine. However, I do want to say, and I'll be the bad guy here. I'll
Okay.
fall on the sword.
I'll be the good guy then.
Yeah. The fact of the matter is, Barkov has scored in every single game so far against the Leafs. And Auston Matthews has not scored so far.
The counterpoint is that the Matthews line...
As a whole.
So they had what? As a whole, against the Barkov line, are up 6-2, 5-on-5.
Yes.
Or it might be 5-2. How many? So they had the Riley goal... Matthews was on the ice for it. Nyes scores early.
Yep.
Were they on the... it would have been a power play. That doesn't count. Were they on the ice for another one? I'm trying to think. I have to remember all the goals.
Okay, so
no,
there was the Nyes goal, the John Tavares goal, and then there was the Marner goal. The John Tavares goal off of Marner, but it did not involve Auston Matthews.
So coming into this game, they were up 4-0 at 5-on-5.
Yeah.
And they scored 2 more, so they're up to 6. Barkov gets one, and Reinhart gets one, so 6-2. Although I don't know if Matthews was on the ice for the Reinhart goal, because that would have been Carlo and so don't quote me on that. The overarching point is the Matthews line is beating the Barkov line in their minutes. So much so that Paul Maurice multiple times in this game changed the matchup because he was like, okay, Matthews is beating Barkov. I'm going to put Lundell out there and hope that he could do a comparable job, and then hopefully I can get the Barkov line going against other lines as well. So for as much as you want Auston Matthews to score, he is playing great defense against the Barkov line. Sam Reinhart scored 57 goals last year, and he's forcing the Panthers to change their matchups. Like the Panthers would have loved to go 1-4, just line them up and play.
Yeah.
Matthews is not allowing them to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul Maurice had to change his game plan because he could not get offense from his top line. And I agree. I was playing bad guy like a little bit. And,
I need you to keep playing it because we do have one part we have to get.
Well, and I do think that Auston Matthews isn't... There is obviously something, you guys said it in the first game over, that obviously something is still bothering him. He is obviously not playing offensively as well as we all want him to. But again, he is still producing offense, and he is doing other things that are required for the Leafs to play well as a whole team. Yes, I would love for our captain to score more. It would have been lovely for him to get the overtime winner tonight. And it would have silenced every critic. It would have silenced every critic. And if he does it in Game 4 and they go up 3-1, great. And I do think that he's going to have that moment in this series. I know that it's going to happen. I feel it in my Leaf-loving soul that it is going to happen. And... he's doing other things. He's laying hits. He is playing incredibly defensively. He had basically he saved the entire PK to end the game. Essentially, he ends up tipping it out. Like he's making all these other moves. And yes, we would love him to score more goals, but we're still up in the series. Yep.
And look, Matthews is playing very I said it. It was either the last show or game 1. He's playing very good if he was a $9.5 million.
Yeah.
Obviously, though, the one glaring thing that everyone is going to continue to scream from the rooftops, and justifiably so, hit the net, please. There was one glaring chance at the end of the first period that most demonstrates this, where Mitch Marner does a great job of holding the puck for an extra half second to draw Barkov in and get Matthews an open look. And Matthews reaches up to the heavens and puts his entire soul into the shot, and it just goes high and wide because he put too much on it. When he has the puck on his stick in the offensive zone, it does look like he's gripping his stick a little too much.
Yep.
And he does look like he's putting a little too much heat on his shots. Like, take a breath, just go in, snap it. Like, just take it. Like, you have the best. Like, I did like some of the other looks. Like, he had a good backhand chance, and it would have been overtime. He had a good chance coming in against Jones where the shot just missed. Like, just got to hit the net, though, because for as good as Matthews has been in these playoffs, he's primarily a goal scorer, and the fact that that hasn't been there is what a lot of people are focusing on. So for as much as we can sit here and defend him, there's no amount of defending we can do. He has to score at some point. Like, you're the highest paid player in the league this season. You're going to have to score at some point. He might score 2 goals a series, which is obviously far below his standard, but given how good, like, if you're winning your minutes 6-2 through 3 games at 5-on-5, yeah, okay.
Against the Stanley Cup champions, too.
I should say against Barkov line, because obviously it was the Matthews line out against the fourth line when Nosek scored that stinker against Wool. But if you're going head-to-head against 2 Selke nominees this season and you're winning your minutes, I won't complain about that.
Well, and let's be real, man. Like, last year he scored 69 goals, and this year he didn't even crack 40. You know, like, he's obviously been hurt all year.
He had less than half of the goals he scored last year.
Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, is it a little bit worrying? Sure, but it has been all season if that's what you're thinking.
And you know what, though? The biggest difference, like, you look at around the league at the other guys that are producing, like, stars in the playoffs, power play.
Yeah.
Nathan McKinnon scored 7 goals in the first round in 7 games. Power play.
Yep.
Like, you get the power play going,
lost.
Matthews' goals will come. Yeah. Like,
lost.
but like, if Matthews, like, that's the one area, like, he's not going to sacrifice his 5-on-5 defense.
Yeah.
Like, he just won't. Like, he's too committed to it. He's making sure that he does his part. Like, that's his job, is to be the best defensive center on the team and to eat some hard minutes against amazing players on the other side. Marner and Nyes get to be a little bit more offensive because of what Matthews is doing.
Yep.
On the power play, though, that goes out the window. On the power play, that's where Matthews has to be like, okay, offense time. This is where I get to rip it. This is where I get to make plays. So that's what I want to see going forward. Like, 5-on-5, I'm totally fine with how he's playing. On the power play, that's where I need more offense.
Yeah, and I will say the only real, I don't even want to say it's a criticism, but the only real thing that if I could change anything about Matthews, I wish that he had the ability to have a Matthews office. You know?
Well,
that would be nice.
But that's what makes him so unique, though. Like, that's how he scored 69 goals, is he doesn't have an offense. He scores from the entire offensive zone. There's
right.
No
I'm just saying on the power play. It would be nice if it was like, he's going to be here, and you can't stop him. Not that you have to be Alex Ovechkin, but, like, Nikita Kucherov, I hate to say it, Cole Caulfield, Patrick Laine, like, there are a number of players.
To a lesser extent for those two, but
right, but like even players like Zach Hyman beside the net or Leon Draisaitl on the bat, the one face-off dot.
That's
he's gonna
the big
be
one.
there.
Like, Draisaitl somehow at the bottom of the dot is the most lethal power play presence aside from Ovechkin, obviously. So, but you know what? Here's something to consider.
It would just be nice if he had that to fall back on. You know what I mean?
If things get dire on the power play, put Matthews on the left and Nylander on the right. They can play on their strong sides because Matthews' catch and release is so good. Yeah. And if there's anything, that's the closest to an office he has on the power play is just being on his strong side, gliding down, curl, and drag. So if it gets dire, you could do that. But I like what they have this one play where Matthews will give it to Tavares at the bottom of the circle. Then Matthews rotates into the middle. Tavares kind of curls up, and then he just puts it on net, and Nyes and Matthews just go to the net and create chaos. Yeah. He's going to get one at some point just by going to the net and some weird fluky bounce happening.
Well, and a lot of, a number of the goals that he's scored so far this year, in the fact that it has been a down year, have been plays where he's just sort of flying by through the middle of the zone, where he's in motion. His feet aren't even necessarily moving at the time, but he's just in the right area and the right time to collect a rebound and bury it. And those moments just haven't been there this series. You know?
Not for him. For other guys, that have been.
Yeah, and the good thing is that because they are paying more attention to Auston Matthews, because they're all expecting him to score, it is creating open ice for Matthew Nyes.
And again, the first goal of the game happens because Matthews tips it off the crossbar and Nyes cleans up the garbage. Like, if that deflection is like a couple millimeters lower and it goes bar down, and that's a Matthews goal to start the game, we're not having this conversation at all.
Nope, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And like I said, I do think that he's going to have a big game. I do think that
at some point,
I think that there's going to be a moment where he does, change the outcome, and that game hasn't happened yet so far in this series, but I have every faith in the world that that's going to happen.
Yep.
So let's move it over into the overtime. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you have anything else that you would like us to talk about, now is the time to get your questions down into the chat. Make sure you hit like, which is right down here, and then subscribe if you're not already. Thank you for being here. Make sure you hit the bell as well so that when we go live on Sunday, you can be first here when we do that. So let's talk about some people in the chat. Game Over Edmonton representing. Let's go. Like and subscribe, y'all. Okay, someone give me a real breakdown. Why did the Panthers' second goal get reviewed without a challenge? I thought to overrule a call, the ice had to be challenged to be reviewed. No, I think that they just wanted to make sure that the goal actually did cross the goal line all the way.
So that's the thing is, when you're reviewing whether or not the puck crossed the goal line, that is a league instituted review.
Yeah.
A challenge can only be for like goaltender interference.
Yeah.
A missed puck stoppage,
offsides.
Things of that nature, offsides, things of that nature. Whereas, like, did the puck cross the goal line? That comes from Toronto. That comes from the situation room.
Yeah, not Toronto in favor of Toronto, unfortunately, because that would be nice, but that's not how it works.
Despite what the really dumb conspiracy theorists will tell you online.
Yeah, that's why they've won so many.
So many cups because the situation room is rigging it for them, obviously.
Yeah. Moving right along here. Another 1-goal game. You really didn't think they would sweep. By the way, goaltending was a wash. Need Matthews to score a freaking goal for frig's sake. Listen, we know that he needs to score a goal. He very nearly did a couple times. I thought the Leafs did well to stay in the game after they tied it, but they were clearly being worn down by all the hits. Panthers were giving Woll the puck a lot and forcing him to make a play. Yeah, they were doing a really good job of dumping it in the zone and making it stop right behind the Leafs net. And Joseph Woll needs to be reminded that he is not a defenseman.
Or he's also not Anthony Stolarz. Like, I wouldn't be complaining if it was Stolarz.
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't be doing this.
Music for Al. Welcome back, Al, as always. More deflections than a pinball machine. Yeah, that's a good reference, actually. Yeah, I don't get the doom and gloom, man. I get, like, Terry earlier, Leafs suck and unfortunately the Panthers have life now. Like, it's one game. It's one game. And it wasn't even like we got shut out and just got, like, our show run. Like, we made it all the way to, like, 15 minutes into overtime. There's lots of hockey left. Lots of hockey left.
If the Leafs lose game 4 and then, like, game 4 and 5, then you can panic. If you lose 3 straight going into game 6, yeah, you can panic. But you lost 1? Hold off for a bit. Like, take a breath.
Yeah, no one goes 16-0 to get the Stanley Cup, let me tell you.
Man, that sure would be nice.
It would be nice. It's also not realistic. Are the Panthers...
It also wouldn't feel as good.
Yeah.
Like,
are the Panthers still running at Woll, or am I just being too sensitive? No, I think the Panthers are doing everything that they can to get a psychological and physical advantage over the other team, including maiming and injuring them.
So I wouldn't say they're necessarily running Woll, but what they are doing is they are making sure they are very present in and around the crease.
Yeah. And
if they happen to bump into him, oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, oops. Like, oh, did I fall on you? That's a shame.
Oh, no.
Like, I should... Oh, like... Oh, no, I bumped your head. Sure hope that you don't... Like, did you see the Aaron Ekblad play from game 2?
Yeah.
Like, where he's like, it's like, oh, the puck's in the air. Oh, let me just reach for... Oh,
bam.
Oops, my elbow. That's crazy. How did that happen?
It's like Auston Matthews or Austin Powers on the rotating bed. Oh, no, I fell over. Oh, no, I fell over again. It's the same concept. I put
Let's get to these ones from OKO Digital.
Yes, let's
I'll
do
start by asking you: do Robertson or Kampf get in for Game 4?
I hope so. I think.
Oh,
I
really?
think I have seen the. I hope I don't see Pontus Holmberg again in this series, and I hope David Kampf gets his redemption.
I have bad news for you. I have real bad news for you.
Well, I didn't. It wasn't. Is that going to happen? Is it what I want? Yes. I would like Pontus Holmberg to sit, and I would like David Kampf to come back.
And then realistically, though, does Berube trust this lineup to get the result in Game 4? I would be pretty surprised if he changes his lineup at this point. And to speak to Lauren's anxiety, I think there is a higher chance that Holmberg is in the top 6 than he gets scratched.
I hate that. I hate it.
He's so soft on his stick. Like, good defensively, good checker. I'll give him that, but he is the softest player on his stick in the whole league. Like, you can just a light breeze and his stick goes flying and he loses the puck.
Yeah. If Carlos' stick doesn't break on the push in goal, does he clear it? No, because he clears it back, but Joseph will ends up essentially not being able to put his glove over it and getting the whistle blown before they push him over the line.
I guess the thought process is if he has his stick intact, he can get a better clear. Further? Yeah, like is he able to get it either more entrenched into Wool's equipment or clear it past Wool or do something else?
Or does he end up passing it back to a Panther who buries it anyway? That's
if ifs and buts were candy and nuts,
we'd all have a very Merry Christmas.
We'd be 16-0.
That would
like
be
Luke says, 16-0 would feel amazing. I'll die on this hill. Yes, Luke, it would feel fantastic. It just is not realistic. Like the Colorado Avalanche in on their Stanley Cup run, they had one of the most unbelievable cup runs ever. They lost 4 games. They went 16-4. That is not 16-4. And you still have to lose 4 games in there. Yeah. It's so it's never gonna happen. So you got to embrace the fact that everyone said, if the Leafs are going to win, it's going to be a long series. Yep. So why are we shocked that the Panthers won a game?
Yeah. Listen, the series with the Sens went as far as it did. None of us thought it was going to go that long. Luke Venables, Hill to be on the bench.
We said Sens in 6, or at least in 6.
Hill to be on the bench looking like he'll have a heart attack if Wool sneezes too hard.
OKO Digital. It was maddening when Holmberg tried to go back between the legs and it hit his heel. That was so fun. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of laughed. I chuckled at that. I was like, "Oh, Holmberg, what are you doing?" But the puck went to Matthews and he got a backhander off. So I was like, "Hey, that's probably the best outcome you could have hoped for when you started trying that move." I don't know. I seriously, man. If Holmberg.
Felt like
go for it.
You know that video online of the little toddler walking up to the soccer goal and kicks the goal over the line and the crowd goes crazy and he puts his hands up because he didn't know what he was doing. That's what that was like. Where Holmberg was like, "I'm just here, yay!" Yeah.
If Holmberg if we were going into possible guys to win, get an overtime winner before the playoffs started, Benoit would have been the lowest. I think Holmberg would have been the second lowest. I think I would believe Brandon Carlo is going to score a playoff goal before Pontus Holmberg at this point.
David Kampf would. I'm just saying.
David Kampf is going to get into the lineup and score a goal before Pontus Holmberg does at this rate.
And I'm going to be livid that they waited so long to bring my man back. Okay, well, let's wrap up the stream here, shall we? I think we got through everybody's questions. It is a late night, even though we are going into the weekend now. So thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you've been listening over audio, if you are listening over audio, if you could give the podcast 5 stars, that would go a long way. If you are watching, if you could hit like and subscribe. And then if you could also follow the Game Over Network as our main channel. If you could go check out the other Game Overs. Obviously, Winnipeg is still in the hunt. Obviously, Edmonton is still going. It sounds like Terry's going to be over there, so you can go get him back. And we're going to be back on Sunday after Game 4 for the Toronto Maple Leafs, still in Florida. Hopefully they steal one from Florida. Wouldn't that be nice? Zach, where can everybody find you here, my friend?
You can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, and YouTube at ZachPayne41. And I just want to shout out OKO Digital for a great way to wrap up the show. All part of the plan, all part of the journey. Everyone take a collective deep breath. Get set for Game 4.
Enjoy your Saturday, a rare Saturday night off. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, like I said, we will be back on Sunday. You can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Lauren in the 6. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us as always. Make sure you hit like, make sure you hit subscribe, and make sure you come back on Sunday when we are here after Game 4. Go Leafs, go everybody! The sun is not set on this series. There is lots of daylight left, so make sure you're back here with us on Sunday. Thank you for being here. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. We will see you Sunday evening.